chug, 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 chug,
Hello, and welcome back to the Wizard Staff. I'm your host, Guy.
And I'm Blake.
And we are two drunk novices who like to talk about EDH. We drink and swear, so you've been warned. Please drink responsibly when talking about children's card games. Tonight we're back with our second part of Commander Legends 2 Commander Legends 2 Dungeons & Dragons Battle for Baldur's Gate. That's the full title.
Yeah, that one.
I almost threw in Forgotten Realms, but I was like, nope, that was the first one. You're confusing the the magic products now, Guy. You can't do that.
There's just so many of them.
There's so few of them. There's so few of them. Like, it's so easy to keep track of them, you know? What'd you say, Blake? There's too many of them? I don't know what you're talking about. Double Masters 2022? We should be doing a review on that right now? Oh, that's too bad.
I know. It's like all those previews are coming out while we still have to finish up this set. And it's like, god damn it. This is why we're changing up our set review structure.
Yeah. So, tonight we're talking the multicolored commanders from Battles for Baldur's Gate. We already went over the different mechanics, the kind of like overview of Battle for Baldur's Gate in the first episode, so if you haven't listened to that one, go listen to it. If you don't want to, whatever, just keep listening, I guess. So before we get into that, Blake, what are you drinking?
Well, I was in the house and I was realizing, man, I finished up almost all my alcohols. Crap, what do I have? And I found a single, I think I've had this before. It was the Irish Death. It's a dark, smooth ale. It's 7.8 ABV. So it's a strong little can. And I'm enjoying it. It's got a little skull and crossbones on the front. It's cute.
That is cute. I'm drinking a Stone Hazy IPA. It says IPAs were once considered an extreme style only for hardcore beer nerds, like, say, us. And today we're stoked to see IPA is the most popular style of craft beer in the world, and quite proud of our role in getting it there. That's what the can says. So it's actually pretty cool. It's by the Stone Devils drink that I've had several times on the show before, because we all know that I am just very consistent about what I like to drink. But this one was like a new version. It's taller, got a pretty design, and yeah.
Does it taste good?
I want it to be different. You know, the first couple sips have been pretty good. I feel like it's a little watery. Like, it's a little more mild, I guess, of the hazy IPAs that I've had. Either that or I'm just starting to not like beer as much.
Oh no.
Yeah. But anyway, enough about that. Let's talk commanders. So, if you've been following us as of recent, you know that we like to start out with what we call the unnoteworthies. So we got about 9 to go over real quick. We're just going to kind of read them off, what they do. Like this first one, the Council of Four, 3 white-blue, legendary creature human noble. Basically, whenever a player draws their second card during their turn, you get to draw a card. Whenever a player casts their second spell during their turn, you get to create a 2/2 white knight creature token, and it's a 0/8. So big butt, but not that great. It's just kind of like white-blue stacks, I suppose, but not even like stacks. Like, there are so many other better stacks, white-blue control decks that you could make, but this one I just don't think is going to make the cut.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the coolest part about this card was the fact that it was a 5-mana 0/8. But I know not too long ago, I can't remember the name of it, we had like this mono-blue commander that was this giant crab, and it was like a 0/17 or something? It was something ridiculous. Maybe it was 0/11.
Yeah, that was in Zendikar Rising.
Yeah, that one. That was just an even more intense version of this, so I'm already like remembering that crab and being like, Council of the Four, who cares? This next card has a fun name, and that's kind of the coolest thing about it. This is Glunch the Bestower, 1 green, white, legendary creature, jellyfish, the 0/5 with flying. At the beginning of your end step, choose a player. They put 2+1/+1 counters on a creature they control. Choose a second player to draw a card, then choose a third player to create 2 treasure tokens. So this is sort of like a weird Selesnya group hug that doesn't really exist. It's strange and super niche. Doesn't really fit anywhere.
Yeah, I feel like if anywhere, it's gonna go into those like Feldegriff group hug decks. But even then, I'm just like, it's not even like I don't want to be giving them card draw or treasure tokens. So like, because it will certainly. You will certainly have to pick one of the players for one of those modes. Like, I don't care for so much for like putting the +1/+1 counters and stuff, but I don't want to give my opponents card draw or mana.
Well, it does say choose a player, so like you are a player. You could be one of those players, as I understand.
Right,
yeah.
Right, but I'm going to choose to either do card draw or treasure tokens for myself.
Correct.
But then I have to do whatever I don't choose to one of my opponents, which I don't want to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Alright, so next we got Gorian, Wise Mentor, who is Bant, green, white, blue, legendary creature, human wizard, vigilance. Whenever you cast an adventure spell, you may copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. So Adventure Matters deck. You know, we've only had 2 sets with adventure cards, so, and you can't even necessarily play all of them in this deck because it's only blue, white, blue, white, green, so I think it could have potential in the future, but it's just, you know, right now it's probably not going to be the best version of itself that it can be.
Alright, moving on, we got Kaga, Shadow Archdruid, 2 black, green, so it's a Golgari commander. It's a legendary creature, Elf Druid, 1/4. Whenever it attacks, it gains Death Touch until end of turn. Mill 2 cards. Ooh. Alright. Once during each of your turns, you may play a land or cast a permanent spell from among cards in your graveyard that were put there from the library this turn. So it's just very low value creature. I mean, I think the best part about it is the fact that it's an elf and a druid, so there's like lots of tribal synergies there. But beyond that, like, as far as being a commander of a deck, it's pretty lackluster.
Yeah, I mean, you want to focus on mill to get the most out of this, but I don't know. It has to attack each turn in order to at least get the mill going, and then you're going to be targeting self-mill, or once during each of your turns, put land across. From your library this turn. Oh, okay. So I was about to say, like, wait, does this work for discard? But it doesn't. So that sucks. Alright. Corlessa, Scale Singer, green and a blue. So pretty cheap. Legendary creature, Dragon Bard. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may cast dragon spells from the top of your library. 1/4. Okay. I think I said this in the first one, but like, we just got a bunch of dragon commanders or potential dragon commanders that just aren't going to be that good. We just have so many other better dragon commander options. I think we're going to talk about one of them later in this episode. But this can go into that, but like not as your own commander, I guess.
Speaking of dragon commanders, this one is Loza, Dragon's Legacy, 3 blue-red, legendary creature, Dragon Shaman, 4/2. It has flying. Whenever you cast an adventure spell or a dragon spell, it deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to any target that isn't a commander. So it's just sort of like you can choose whether it's adventure or dragons, tribal basically. You probably don't want to run a mix of both. You can. It's commander, you can do whatever you want. It's just going to deal damage, which is pretty straightforward. And is it like damage flinging being limited to adventure spells or dragon spells is pretty restrictive, and I don't think a lot of people are going to build it.
Nope, not at all. Raphael, Fiendish Savior, 3 black-red, legendary creature, Devil Noble, flying. Other demon, devils, imps, and tieflings you control get +1/+1 and have lifelink. At the beginning of each end step, if a creature card was put into your graveyard from anywhere this turn, create a 1/1 red devil creature token. When this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. So I guess you could build this in the sense of like demons, devils, imps, tribal, but I think, we already got a couple other commanders, Rakdos, specifically, that care more about devils and demons is just going to be better in general. Maybe this can go into that deck, but I don't see this being a better option as a commander.
Nope. Alright, next up we got Rilsa Rael Kingspin. 3 blue black. Legendary creature, human rogue, 2/5 with death touch. When it enters the battlefield, you take the initiative. So remember, initiative is sort of like a revamped monarch mechanic. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature gains death touch until end of turn. If you've completed a dungeon, that creature also gets +5/+0 and gains first strike and menace until end of turn. So initiative is not really that big in Commander and probably won't be, even if it gets more cards for it. This is just pumping up your creatures by giving them death touch and +5/+0 at best, and that's only if you've completed a dungeon, which takes a lot of work. It's just really narrow. Not going to be seeing much play.
Yeah, I think maybe you could go into the Esper. I forget what the commander is from AFR. The Esper one that's like white, blue, black, and it cares about dungeons more so. Like maybe this can go in there, but it's also 5 mana. I feel like this is a pretty okay effect for 5 mana. Okay, and the last one, Thrakus the Butcher, 3 red, green, legendary creature dragon peasant. Trample, whenever Thrakus attacks, double the power of each dragon you control until end of turn. So, okay, pretty good, but again, put this into your Dragon Tribal deck. I mean, if you want this guy to, I guess, be your commander, that's cool, but yeah, I just feel like, again, any dragon commander, or most of the dragon commanders we got are just going to be better as 99 options for some of these, like, better standouts.
Yep, and with that, I think we can move into the main section of this set review, which is the multicolored commanders. And so now we gotta get to talk about cards that we actually kind of like and have a little bit of interest in.
Yep, let's go.
Alright, here we have Dyneer, Invoker Adept. 1 blue, red, white, legendary creature, human wizard, 4/4 with haste. You may activate abilities of other creatures you control as though those creatures had haste. That alone is pretty good, like essentially giving your other creatures haste if they have activated abilities. And then it itself has tap. When you next activate an ability this turn by spending 4 or more mana to activate it, copy that ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. So this is a classic commander design where they take something and they pretty much make a commander where you are copying it, you're doubling it. So it's like doubling the value, and then on top of it, it's also like enabling by giving said creatures with activated abilities haste. And then remember, this card itself has haste, so it can use its tap ability to double. So it's just like, wow, this does it all. Yeah, all in itself.
Yeah, I'm trying to look through what are some of the best effects on like EDH rec that you could use. You got Time Stream Navigator, which, you know, allows you to take an extra turn.
Oh, sure.
But you do need the City's Blessing. Also, like, Arcanus, you can just automatically, like, play that, draw 3 cards. You got some sweet protection cards, like Mother of Ruins, Giver of Ruins, like those play, and you can just now automatically use those as protection, so those are kind of a must. Yeah, I like this card. Like, it's definitely got some niche build arounds, and like, I don't know, I feel like we're just kind of like scratching the surface. These cards have only been out for, I don't know, 2 weeks at this point, and yeah. Human Wizard also, like, we got plenty of those, so like, if there's any kind of like Wizard Tribal that you want to go with as well, like, I think you will certainly have some good options.
Alright, I'm excited. What do we got next?
Yeah, so Janssen, Chaos Crafter, red, white, black, legendary creature, gnome artificer. Has haste. Tap, sacrifice an artifact creature, create 2 treasure tokens. Alright. Tap, sacrifice a non-creature artifact, create 2 1/1 colorless construct artifact creature tokens. Alright, so not bad. Seems like we have a lot of already, like, I feel like what I'm first thinking of is like red-white artifacts matter. Like we have the Strixhaven, what was that, the Lorehold decks, where Audric was in charge, and so, I'm already thinking like, okay, we got some like good artifact synergy going there, but now we're also adding black into this. So we get access to some of the best tutors. Already being in red, you have like Zorn, Professional Facebreaker, things like that, that'll like make you more treasures. Academy Manufacturer, of course, to like create 2 treasure tokens, or like create 2 clues, 2 foods, 2 treasure tokens.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just need to pick up Academy Manufacturer at this point, because like, this card is only going to get better in the long run. I feel like I feel like I undervalued it a little at the beginning. What do you think, Blake?
I think that's not too bad of a decision to make in terms of buying that card. In terms of janssen, it's a great name, by the way. It seems pretty decent. It's got haste, so it can activate its abilities right away of sacrificing things to then get either 2 treasures or 2 tokens, both of which, if you're utilizing them correctly, can get you great amount of value. Overall, just like solid card. I know you just read janssen, but I feel like you're going to want to read this next card.
Oh, okay. I guess I can do that, just because like I've been hyping it up a little over the last 2 sets. So we got Mirm, Sentinel Worm, or Wyrm?
I say Worm. Just like
I'm Worm. Okay. 3 Teamer, green, blue, red, legendary creature, dragon spirit, flying, ward 2. Okay, that's pretty good, I guess. Oh wait, whenever another non-token dragon enters the battlefield under your control, create a token that's a copy of it, except the token isn't legendary if that dragon is legendary. Ooh. And it's a 6/6. Now, Doubling Season's a good card. Just imagine making tokens of your dragons from your commander. Like, okay, so we got the cool new mythic cycle that we'll talk about later, like the Ancient Silver Dragons. We got the mythic cycle from the last one. Goldspan Dragon, Old Gnawbone, Terror of the Peaks. All of these cards are kind of like crazy, because it's just like double up on them. I'm not 100% sure this card even needed like Ward 2. Like, 2 is not like a significant hurdle to get over, but just giving this card even like a little bit more protection, I feel like, makes this card extremely more annoying, because it's like, oh my god, like it has semi-hexproof for a little bit, but like in the meantime, you're probably going to be like doubling up on your dragons. Yeah, so I don't know. This is pretty good just for like what it's telling you to do. It's like, yeah, okay, every card in your deck, make it a dragon, and then we'll just double it. It's like, oh, cool. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I think this is design I like to see where, Ur-Dragon came out a number of years ago, and that's 5 color, and it is like kind of like always the card that whenever there's a new dragon commander that comes out and asks you to do Dragon Tribal, you always have to ask the question. It's like, well, why wouldn't I just be playing Ur-Dragon instead? And then that's the case with most of the time, and then you finally get something like Mirm, Sentinel Worm, where it's like, all right, I am only in Teamer, so I'm 2 less colors than Ur-Dragon, but I have this super awesome effect that Ur-Dragon can't do, so I'm gonna like pull some people and like kind of make the idea of Dragon Tribal like more diverse, and that's the kind of design I like to see.
It is certainly encouraging you to like maybe consider this, because I feel like of dragon commanders, Ur-Dragon for sure. Now this, I'd have to kind of just double check like what else there might be, but I guess you got Scion of the Ur-Dragon or like Tiamat. Those are also like okay options. But yeah, this is pretty good.
Yeah, I think the Worm is going to be the most popular commander from the set, based on everything I've seen.
I would agree with you. I think, like, maybe there's some other in the background pairings. Like, that's hard to like compare. Yeah, once we're done, we can, say that. But yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. Next one is 9 Fingers Keeney, 1 black, green, blue. Legendary creature, human rogue, 4/4 with menace and ward, pay 9 life. Which is actually quite a high amount of life.
That's almost a quarter of your life total. That's a lot.
Yeah, so that's interesting to me. But then it also has, whenever it deals combat damage to a player, look at the top 9 cards of your library, which is a lot of cards. Usually it's like, look at the top 5 or look at the top 7, but this is look at the top 9, which is like a tenth of your deck almost, especially after doing your opening hand. In Commander, you may put a gate card from among them onto the battlefield. Then, if you control 9 or more gates, put the rest into your hand. Otherwise, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So this card is very, very clearly screaming to any deck builder, hey, make this a gates deck. Previously, we have seen people try to make gates decks, and they have been with Golos Tireless Pilgrim, because Golos can get Maze's End, which is in turn like the win con for any gates deck. However, with Golos being banned somewhat recently as your commander and in the 99, that's no longer an option. So now WotC has made this card, and we now sort of get back a commander to really incentivize building gates decks. And yeah, they're all probably going to look the same because there's only so many gates and whatnot. And you're probably just going to fill up the rest of this deck with like not Abzan, what is this card identity?
Sultai.
Yes, Sultai cards, like you're just going to fill them up with that, but hey, like we have this archetype back basically. So I'm in favor of this card.
Yeah, I think this is... So like Golos made it kind of a little easier because you could just go find Maze's End.
Oh, sure.
This won't allow you to... I guess this won't allow you to like cheat Maze's End into play because Maze's End isn't actually a gate card. But you do have 11 gates within the Sultai color identity. So, most likely you're going to be able to hit something once per, playing this. Or like deals combat damage. So if you do want to like be able to cheat gates into play through combat damage, you probably want to be giving her like Whisper Silk Cloak. You want to play like Rogue's Passage, things that'll make her unblockable.
Sure,
for
because
sure.
you do have to deal combat damage.
Yeah.
You can't just attack and get the trigger. You do have to connect.
Yeah, I like this card. It's neat, and like it also reminds me of that Octopus card we got back in Strixhaven, where it was like a bunch of 8s everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
This is now just like 9, 9, 9,
Yep,
9.
9 fingers, 9 life, 9 cards deep. Yep, it's very well designed that way. Yes.
Yeah, I just wish there was some way. I don't know, what's the appropriate mana value to like power toughness, but if there could have been like a way of making it like a 4 mana like 1/9, that'd be pretty cool. But then it's like 9. She'd have a giant toughness, and already if you want to like kill her with 9 life, having to target, like that's a lot. So okay, I guess like that would make things.
And
difficult.
I would not have wanted this card to have been a 9 mana 9/9, because then obviously no one's gonna play it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, what else we got?
All right. Next, we got Maisie, True Sword Paladin. I almost like read that as 2 different words as what it should be.
Don't worry, me too. I just was thinking it.
Legendary creature, Halfling Knight. Whenever an enchanted creature attacks one of your opponents, it gets +2/+0 and gains trample until end of turn. Notably, it doesn't say, whenever an enchanted creature you control attacks. So this will also benefit from your opponents playing enchantments on creatures and attacking. Or you can give your opponents like the goaded cards, the impetus cycle, I think it was, where you like goad them through enchantments, so you get benefits that way. Anyway, whenever an aura you control is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, exile it. Until the end of your next turn, you may cast that card. So you can even then reuse cards like that, which will, be able to get you some advantage with her first ability. Its first ability. Their first ability? I don't know. But yeah, this does scream Enchantress in a way, right, Blake? Because, it's telling you to play enchantments. You got green and white, and now red, which I feel like is the most notable gold color. So, I feel like you could make an argument for, this as an Enchantress type deck. What do you think?
Oh, that's definitely one way you can build this. You can focus on building this Voltron. You can start putting enchantments on Maisie and give her +2/+0 and trample consistently every turn, and then you can give her other auras to give her other keyword abilities and buffs, and then the auras being able to recur them. That is super helpful. There is a little bit of tension in terms of if you are going to do Voltron strategy, you're also going to ask whether do you play Mazzy or Earl the Miststalker, because that's also a very viable Voltron deck in this specific color identity. I really like this card because of the wording. It really leaves it open to where you could do Voltron, or as you alluded to earlier, you can also just enchant your opponent's creatures and find ways to goad them because you're in red. There's plenty of goad effects there, and just cause a little bit of chaos, a little bit of chaos that where it's fun, and really sort of encourage people to attack each other and not you. And then again, because of the second half of Mazzy, you're getting these auras back even if your opponents are getting rid of them. So I really like this card because of the wording. It's open-ended. It gives you flexibility. You're not locked in on a super narrow and niche strategy.
Yeah. So pretty cool that this has a couple different ways that it can go. I think I looked at it at first and I was like, whatever. But now that we're doing the set review and I have to pay attention and care about it. As I actually read the card, I was like, oh, okay. Actually, this is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Hot take, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah.
Read the card. You might be surprised.
Alright, so next up we have another commander. This one's a little bit strange though, because when it was released, WotC realized, we are going to actually errata this and change just a few words. So here I'm going to be reading the errated version to what it actually is. So you may open up a pack and get this card, but you're gonna, unfortunately, the wording is gonna be just slightly different. So this is Zevlor El Turo Exile. I probably butchered that. 1 blue, black, red, legendary creature, Tiefling Warrior. It's a 4/2 with haste, and then it has an activated ability of 2 tap. When you next cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets only a single opponent or a single permanent an opponent controls this turn, for each other opponent, choose that player or a permanent they control, copy that spell, and the copy targets the chosen player or permanent. So that was a lot of words I just said. So it's kind of instant and sorcery focused, and whenever you target a single player or a permanent, it's gonna let you copy that instant or sorcery for each other player, basically. Am I understanding that correct, guy?
Yeah, I've had a hard time trying to follow it myself. I'm just gonna have to, which is a little unfortunate in the way of I do have to then trust my opponent if I don't know them, that they know what they're doing, which can sometimes be, a hit or a miss. But yeah, we watched, what was it? Playing with Power? Not Playing with Power. Playing to Win? You sent some video.
I think it was
this guy was in there. Yeah, but the idea was just you're going to probably copy stuff. I don't know. I think one good example was Jessica's Will. So he cast Jessica's Will, targeted a single opponent. So he was oh, you have this many cards in your hand, so I can create this much red mana, and then he was able to copy that 2 more times. Which that's already, like, very good with just 1 copy, so, like, 2 more copies, like, oh goodness. Yeah, this one definitely seems very powerful. It is 4 mana. I'm gonna be scared of this card if I see it, because I'm like, oh jeez. It has haste, it can easily just, like, come down and start, like, comboing off.
Yeah, definitely one of the stronger commanders from this set, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, if it was on that channel, Play to Win, which is already a CDH channel, so if they're building decks around that, you know that it's probably going to be strong.
Yeah.
Next we have Bane, Lord of Darkness, who is a god. 1 white, blue, black, legendary creature god. So we've had many gods before: Kaldheim, Theros, Amonkhet. Missing one, I think. But anyway, they always tend to have some kind of, like, clause on them that makes them harder to deal with. Here we have, as long as your life total is less than or equal to half your starting life total, Bane, Lord of Darkness has Indestructible. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, target opponent may have you draw a card. If they don't, you may put a creature card with equal or lesser toughness from your hand onto the battlefield. Yeah, so pretty good. Because I feel like you can kind of do this aristocrat style thing with, like, you know, you got your white and black, so you can, like, sacrifice a bunch of creatures to, like, draw. I'm automatically just, like, thinking Peer into the Abyss, so you'd probably play, like, that first, draw half your library, have some way of, like, keeping half your library in your hand. Then you can, like, probably, you know, you're just gonna have some of, like, the best creatures in your hand. Or wait, you know what, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know. Okay, so what I was thinking was, like, you know, you want to have a lot of creatures in your hand so you can, like, put a creature onto the battlefield and you just have, like, a huge selection of them, but your opponent allowing you to draw a card. So why would they never let you draw a card instead of just, like, putting a creature card onto the battlefield? I don't know. Now I'm confused. Like,
it really depends on how powerful a creature you're putting from hand to the field. How scared they are of that, or whether they'll let you just draw instead.
Yeah, but sorry. I'm just kind of now like, okay, I let a creature die for whatever reason. Now I can either draw a card, or my opponent can let me put a creature card from the hand onto the battlefield. I feel like you should always just let them draw the card, because, like, I don't want you to cheat mana cost, or, like, be able to, like, play something even more powerful. Like,
yeah, I was just gonna say, both are powerful things, drawing cards and cheating of mana cost, so you're really putting your opponent in between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, I don't know how to build this now. I was like, okay, this is cool, but now I'm like, as I'm, like, thinking about it, I'm like, oh geez, this will it certainly seems like it would have to be kind of, like, a little political, because you would want to, you know, say, like, hey, Blake, let me put a creature onto the field, and I won't swing this creature at you. And you'd be like, oh, okay. So I guess that is kind of probably what the thinking is, because EDH is such a social game that, like, they want to encourage politics like this, but I don't know. In our more competitive, casual group of players, I feel like I would never, ever let somebody just, like, play a creature for free. What?
Yeah.
My goodness. I would be so scared. Like, you were park play, like, I don't know, just something strong. I'm like, ugh. How could I let that happen? I guess move on to the next god.
Yeah, so, like, there's just, I believe, these 2 gods.
There's 3.
Oh, there's 3? Okay. There's Bal, Lord of Murder, 2 black, red, green, legendary creature, god. As long as your life total is less than or equal to half your starting life total, it has Indestructible. So they all have that. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, put +1/+1 counter on target creature and goad it. So, again, we have the idea of a non-token creature dying, but instead you're putting a +1/+1 counter on some creature, usually your opponents, and then you're goading it, so then they're forced to attack somebody else. So this one is just another example of WotC trying to make goad and, more importantly, making combat more relevant to the commander format. And generally speaking, I think it's just all around solid design. You can do lots of things within this color identity of Jund. So go wild.
Is it Jund? Yep, it is Jund. For a moment, I guess I thought it was not Cabaretti, because that's the gangster name. I forget, what is that? What is that? White, red, green. What color identity is that called? Naya. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, but okay. Jund makes this, I think, even better.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Next, we're going to move on to the third god, which is Merkel, Lord of Bones. 4 white bones. God of Bones. God of Boner. Whoops. 4 white, black, green. Legendary creature god. Same thing. Half your life total. It's indestructible. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may exile it. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that card, except its enchantment, and loses all other card types. So that's kind of cool, because what's one of the hardest permanent types to deal with? Oh, I don't know, enchantments? Yeah, and then I feel like this could be a really interesting, like, evil Enchantress type deck, because, like, you have, like, a bunch of these, like, whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. So yeah, let me just exile my creature, have this new enchantment that was a creature enter the battlefield, and then I just, like, draw a bunch of cards. Like, again, you have, like, aristocrats type abilities. I don't know. And I'm trying to think, what's the best creature to turn into an enchantment? And unlike other episodes, it's not Blightsteel Colossus, because then Blightsteel Colossus can't attack, and it's like, well, I guess you wouldn't even be able to turn Blightsteel Colossus into an enchantment, because, like, get shuffled back into the library anyway. I don't know, Platinum Angel, that's pretty good. Drannith Magistrate, you're in white. Grand Abolisher, you're in white. Esper Sentinel. I feel like you got some good options. Avacyn, Angel of Hope, you're in white. Okay. I think this would be a cool deck. Just turn all your creatures into enchantments. To bones.
To me, it just seems like Abzan, creature, good stuff that you can reanimate whenever they die. Kind of. I know some people, I'm just going to touch on this briefly. I know some people, like, were talking about having this as an Enchantress deck, and I'm just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because these enchantments, like, they become enchantments, right? But you're creating a token, so they're just, like, entering the battlefield. Most Enchantress effects, so, it's like, most Enchantress effects are cast an enchantment to draw a card. Like, but you're not casting these, you're creating them. So, like, there's only a few. Like, there's Alondo Blossoms, and then there's, I believe it's a Tessin Champion.
Yeah.
Where it's like ETB, draw a card. Like, that's really
because those have Constellation.
Yeah, Alondo Blossom has Constellation. So it's like, this is not an Enchantress, like, deck. I don't know what all of y'all are fucking smoking. Like, once they are enchantments, like, sure, within this card identity, you can do certain enchantment synergies, but, like, it's not actually as good as you probably think it is, so that's my 2 cents. We can move on.
Now we're out of 3-color, so 2-color. Let's go.
Alright. Khadira, Caller of the Small. 1 green, white, legendary creature, Orc Ranger 3/3 with Trample. When it deals combat damage to a player, for each token you control, create a 1/1 white rabbit creature token. This is a very good creature token generator, because, like, say you have 5 tokens and they all deal combat damage, now you're creating 5 rabbit tokens. So just the fact that you're going from 5 tokens, adding another 5, and then next turn you go from 10 to 20 in theory, like, you're basically doubling your tokens every turn, in theory. And so...
I mean...
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, but, like, I think you're also missing, because, like, we kind of, like, went crazy for this last episode, but, like, similar to, like, Jaheira, Friend of the Forest, who says tokens you control have tap ag grain. Khadira does not care whether or not the tokens you have are creatures. So this will also count your clues, your treasures, your food, any kind of token you have on the field. For each token you control, create a white rabbit. So you have 5 treasures, 5 rabbits. I know, it's crazy.
Ooh.
Just made it a lot better. It's a huge value engine for just even being 3 mana too.
Yeah, and another nice thing is, like, it's not like those new tokens you make have to deal combat damage. It's only this commander that has to deal combat damage, and then boom, suddenly you're doubling each token.
Yeah, you're pretty much creating an army for yourself to, like, you know, hold up to block, and then, like, at some point you can, like, probably play, like, Crater Hoof of the Behemoth, make your tokens huge, give them trample. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Damn. Solid rate.
The other thing that I just read up upon, and I don't want people to, I guess, miss out on this fact, but this character is trans. The artist, or I guess it was the artist, I think, who confirmed that. The character is transitioned from male to female, and is also, I believe, a lesbian now. So, cool to have representation, because I know, like, of, you know, queer characters that we have in Magic, you know, I can think of a few, like Alesha, oh gosh, what's that one planeswalker's name? Well, we have Ashiok, who identifies with they, them. We had one recently in Kaldheim, whose name is, like, Nico. Yep, Nico. Okay.
I thought Nico was non-binary.
Yeah, but, like, like, in the spectrum of, like, characters who aren't, like, just straight.
Oh, sure.
Representation matters is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
But yeah, alright, this next one, you know, has to be your commander, because it's called Commander Lyra Porter. 3 red, white, legendary creature, human soldier. Whenever you attack, spells you cast from exile this turn cost X less to cast, where X is the number of players being attacked. Exile the top X cards of your library. Until end of turn, you may cast spells from among those exiled cards. So, I like this because it's kind of going back to, like, Boros Origins, where it's, like, you know, very attack heavy, but it's also giving you card advantage at the same time, and, you know, kind of fixing your mana a little. So if you attack 3 opponents, you don't even need to deal the combat damage. You attack 3 opponents, you can get 3 cards. All of them will cost up to 3 less to cast. So, yeah, I think that's pretty good. You also have cards like, you know, Jessica's Will, Rob the Archives, you find some prisoners, stuff like that, where that's kind of like, you know, Red's new way of getting card advantage. It's just being able to exile stuff and be able to, like, play more cards.
Yep, it's continuing the trend of Boros cards getting card advantage while attacking. So, if you find that this is a commander that you want to spice things up with, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we have Baba Lysaga, Night Witch. 1 black, green, legendary creature, human warlock, 3/3. And it has a tap ability, sacrifice up to 3 permanents. If there were 3 or more card types among the sacrificed permanents, each opponent loses 3 life, you gain 3 life, and you draw 3 cards. So sack 3 things, if you meet all the conditions, your opponents lose life, you gain life, and you draw 3. Which, if you can do this every turn of finding things to sacrifice, hopefully, like, it's nothing of super high value, and, like, you can easily create things that you can easily sacrifice. You can be drawing, like, 3 cards per turn. That's assuming you don't find ways within Golgari Color Entity to untap this thing and just retap it to do more. Just, like, possibly drawing 3 cards per turn. It's pretty decent, at minimum.
Yeah, I agree. Who's next? Ooh, another Boros commander, who is Duke Ulder, Ravengard, 4 red-white, legendary creature, human noble soldier. At the beginning of combat on your turn, another target creature you control gains haste and myriad until end of turn. If you don't remember what myriad is, it's whenever it attacks the creature. For each opponent other than the defending player, you may create a token that's a copy of that creature that's tapped and attacking that player or a planeswalker they control. Exile the token at end of combat. So most often that's going to create 2 more creature tokens that are tapped and attacking. But yeah, so I think this is pretty good. I think one of the things that I wasn't really thinking about when evaluating some of these cards, with like Myriad especially, is that we just got the Cabaretti deck, Cabaretti archetype that had the Alliance ability where it's like, you know, whenever a creature enters the battlefield. So whenever you're creating token creatures off of these Myriad triggers, you can get some benefit there. So like Rumor Gatherer is a good example, because that's like, you know, one enters the battlefield, you scry. Second one enters the battlefield, you get to draw a card. You know, you can also have like Spirited Companion, who is like a small little creature who can draw you a card. I don't know. You got like some pretty good options, I think. Just giving creatures myriad and like benefiting off of their effects, like, you know, also include Impact Tremors, Witty Roastmaster, Perforos, things like that.
Yeah, I think you pretty much got it nailed down. I think you got it going on.
Thank you.
This next one is a little bit tricky, I think. It's Alondo the Seer. It is 2 green blue. It's a legendary creature, human shaman, 3/5. And it has a tap ability. So you tap it, draw a card, then exile a card from your hand and put a number of time counters on it equal to its mana value. So a few commanders in past have time counters. You're seeing it again here. It gains, when the last time counter is removed from this card, if it's exiled, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. If you cast a creature spell this way, it gains haste until end of turn, then remove a time counter from each other card you own in exile. So this is like, okay, just to oversimplify things, this is similar to like, this is like almost a Simic version of the original Joyra, not Joyra Weatherlight Captain. I'm talking like the OG Joyra, which had like time counters on it, and you'd remove the time counters, you'd cheat in this giant fucking like Eldrazi or some shit for like no mana. You just had to wait a little bit of time, and it was, at least back in the early days of Commander, it was like really spooky. Nowadays, it's been a while since I've seen anyone play original Joyra. I think this is definitely like a reincarnation of this, and it's kind of cool to see it in a different color identity, because original Joyra was in, I believe, Is It colors? And now this is in Simic, and so I am just like kind of interested in like how those two decks will play differently.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. I think the nice part about this being in Simic is that you have access to like green, which has more big creatures that you can cheat out, because like the Eldrazi are nice and all to cheat out, but this one says like put time counters on it equal to your mana value, and I feel like though in Joyra it's not that. I think it's just 4 time counters. It's not even, so it's like 4, so like the rate is much better for Joyra versus this, but like this with like 4 time counters you can still get a lot of creatures that are like good value at 4 mana, you know?
That's a good point. Yeah, this allows for a little bit more flexibility, whereas Joyra was a bit more rigid.
Yeah. Okay. Asterion, the Decadent. 4 white-black, legendary creature, vampire, elf, rogue. I don't know why it's an elf, but... Death Touch, Lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, choose 1. Feed. Target opponent loses life equal to the amount of life they've lost this turn. Friends. You gain life equal to the amount of life you gain this turn. seems okay. I actually would have probably moved this into the unnoteworthy section. I mean, you know, you're in white-black, you can find ways of, like, abusing your Sanguine Bond, Exquisite Blood combos, like, those kind of effects, you know, just win the game. Sanguinate, you probably have, like, lots of creatures that are just gonna make your opponents lose life, and then you lose life, like Gary. Yeah, so I feel like this plays like a lot of other white-black life gain, life loss decks. Like, it reminds me of, I feel like this is a weaker version of my Liesa deck. So yeah, I actually probably would have moved this to unnoteworthy if I had thought about it a little more. So I have nothing else to say.
Yeah, it's limited to the beginning of your end step. Black and white, I like losing life and gaining life. It's not really anything quite new. Yeah, I think Liesa is just so much more interesting. But, you know, I'm sure someone's going to find this more interesting. Alright, next up we got John Irenicus, Shattered One, something like that. 2 blue-black, legendary creature Elf Wizard, 3/3. At the beginning of your end step, target opponent gains control of up to 1 target creature you control. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on it, and tap it. It's goaded for the rest of the game, and it gains this creature can't be sacrificed. Whenever a creature you own but don't control attacks, you draw a card. So this is quite a wacky design. It's been a while since I've seen card text quite like this, where like a lot of the time cards do not say for the rest of the game. And like the fact that this creature can't be sacrificed, like, you know, people have this creature now that has to attack, and so like they're gonna have to like spend their own spot removal to like kill their own creature in order to get rid of it, right? That's just gonna feel so bad for them. Because otherwise, like, because of the second like paragraph of text on this card, like you're gonna be drawing a card consistently. If you do that to enough like creatures, like you're gonna be drawing a fuck ton of cards. If like this card and the goated creatures stick around long enough.
Yeah, I think the other interesting thing too is like it can't be sacrificed, because I feel we've seen a lot of recent board wipes or white effects that say sacrifice because they're trying to get around the indestructibility clause. But, you know, giving other creatures this ability of this creature can't be sacrificed, kind of similar to, you know, what Sigarda says something along those lines, right?
Yes, Sigarda herself and a few other cards say like your shit can't be sacrificed. So I mean, like those cards in your board state, this is kind of weird because it's like making like your opponent's like stuff unsacrificable. So it's a little bit different, but it's the same. Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird card design. So therefore, it's interesting to me, and I kind of like it.
I like it too. I'm totally with you. Alright, we are down to our last 4 or 5. Oh, actually, no. I take that back. We got like 6 or 7 more. Alright, so Mahadi, Emporium Master. Oh, okay, this one will be pretty easy. 1 red-black, legendary creature, Cat Devil. At the beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each creature that died this turn. So I feel like you can totally benefit from either having this as your commander, where, you know, you can play a giant board wipe, cast this, and then, you know, you benefit from the fact that, like, I don't know, 10 creatures might have died, you gain 10 treasures. Because he's also a pretty low mana value card for 3. Or you could put this in a Corval deck where, I don't know, you get into constant loops like sacrificing creatures and gain value off of that. So like this is just only gonna like make that even crazier, you know?
Yeah. I remember seeing this card initially being like it's still half decent. I was like really hyped for it. Like, but I was like, oh, at the beginning of your end step, so it's just your end step. I misread it and I thought it was each end step. And I'm like, oh my god. So that's my own damn fault. Yeah, creating treasure for each creature that died this turn, that's like a reasonably strong effect, and you can definitely do dumb strong things with it.
Yeah, I mean, this one definitely has the potential to be, quite good in getting you value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Alright, who's next?
Next up we have Minthara, Merciless Soul, 2 white and a black. Legendary creature, Elf Cleric. It's a 2/2 with Ward X, where X is the number of experience counters you have. So that's pretty strange. At the beginning of your end step, if a permanent you controlled left the battlefield this turn, you get an experience counter. And then it also has creatures you control get +1/+0 for each experience counter you have. So, just in a vacuum, this card all on its own as the commander, like, say you had, you're in white-black, right? So you can, like, flicker your stuff, and that'll trigger the middle ability during your end step. So say you, like, flickered 3 things, you are going to get 3 experience counters, if I'm reading that correctly. And then, so now it's Ward 3, so, like, it's harder to kill this commander. And then your creatures are getting +3/+0. And then experience counters inherently, like, are on you as a player and are, like, pretty much impossible to get rid of. So that seems pretty decent, because, like, this color identity, you can flicker a bunch of things using the white, and then you can also kill your own stuff if you need to, because you're in black. That'll also get you experience counters. This is definitely interesting to see experience counters again. I was not expecting it, because I don't remember which year it was, but a couple of years back, the commander precons, like, of that year, like, the signature commander precons, were all commanders that had, like, experience counters, like Azuri, Claw of Progress. That's the one that sticks out in my mind. Like, those were pretty popular, but they've definitely been, like, kind of, like, forgotten a bit over time. You don't see them as much, so it's kind of cool to see experience counters come back again.
Yeah, I do love how in a set like Commander Legends, you can have stuff like this, like bringing. It's not out of the ordinary. I think even experience counters were introduced in the first kind of commander, or in a first introduced any commander product. To me, this one's like a little underwhelming, I think, just because, like, I do like how the fact that, like, you know what, actually, I'm like torn, because I feel like it's a very weak ability, just to give your creatures +1/+1 for, or +1/+0 for each experience counter you control, and to just have, like, a pretty nice ward if you have a ton of experience counters. But experience counters are, like, a bitch to deal with in general. So, you have, like, Mizzix, who I think reduces the cost of a lot of your stuff for the amount of experience counters you have.
Yes.
So I feel like this makes it a lot more dealable. Like, I'm not worried that, like, oh no, you're just gonna be casting a bunch of stuff for cheap now. It's just like, oh, okay, your creatures are a little stronger. Because it's at the beginning of your end step, if a permanent you control left the battlefield this turn, so it only is looking for one permanent. So you're only going to get one permanent if one thing left, and it's only on your end step. It's not like it's everyone's end step, so you couldn't even, like, sack a fetch land. But yeah, I think so. You know what? I was like, oh gosh, like, experience counters, that's annoying. But then I'm like, well, the effect's kind of weak, so, like, you're going to do something with experience counters. I'd rather it be this than, like, another Niv Mizzix.
Oh, man. You're making me, like, nostalgic. I'm just... Remember back when, like, Mizzix of the Ismagnus, like, was the, like, boogeyman sort of the format, and people were like, do we need to ban this commander? And, like, you've heard that quite often.
Oh, yeah.
And now, years later, looking back with all these new commanders and all these new commander cards and seeing how the format just shifted a little bit, it's just like, wow. Can't believe people used to say that so much for that kind of card.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I also keep looking at this and I'm like, is that Nahiri? And I'm like, no, it's not, guys.
Okay, I'm glad it's not just me, because I was thinking that too.
I'm sure it's a lot of people, to be honest.
Yeah.
Alright, we got Nira Wild Mage. Next card, 4 blue-red, legendary creature, human elf shaman. Strap in, this is a paragraph. Whenever you cast a spell, you may put it on the bottom of its owner's library. If you do, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-land card. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Then put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This ability triggers only once each turn. So, okay, whenever you cast a spell, so it could be anything, you probably want to scry your deck in the best way possible, where you're able to then know that you're going to play something like Opt, Brainstorm, just like a blue cantrip type effect for 1 mana to then like cheat something big into play. Because it doesn't matter if it doesn't even matter if it's like, you know, I cast an instant, I'm looking for an instant. I cast an instant, put that on the bottom, now I just cast whatever's, you know, next available to me. So, yeah, this one seems pretty good if you're able to build the deck correctly. I don't know what, like, the best ratio of, like, having scry effects to cheap cards that you'd want to play to, like, get this to trigger, to then the creatures or things that you want to cheat into play. Like, I don't know, you could also cheat in Omnipotence, and then just go crazy.
Yeah, it's sort of like a polymorph effect for basically any type of spell you play. Polymorphs into a similar type of spell. I've seen a decent amount of interest for this commander online. See if people actually do it. I mean, it is a little bit uncertain. You can mitigate that uncertainty with certain deck building consistencies. But even so, like top deck manipulation, like we were kind of saying, scrying. And the beginning of this paragraph of text says, like, you may put it on the bottom of the center of the library. So, like, if you're not ready, if you haven't done enough setup, you don't need to, like, do this ability and then continue to, like, jumble up, like, your setup. Like, you can choose not to activate this card and just sort of continue to set up.
Yeah, I do kind of like how, you know, it's a May ability and you do have that option. So, you know, maybe Brainstorm and then you cast your other cantrips. But yeah, I feel like it was something I was having difficulties with myself in the terms of like cantrip, or like, you know, the number of small creatures that I want to turn into large creatures in my polymorph deck that I'm working on. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
Alright, so next up we got Ojai the Exquisite
Exquisite Blade.
So next up we have Oji the Exquisite Blade. 2 white and a blue. Legendary creature, human monk, 2/3. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life and scry 2. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, exile up to 1 target creature you control, then return to the battlefield under its owner's control. So it's a 4 mana Azorius commander. It has an ETB of gaining some life and scrying a bit. So you can flicker this a shit ton, I don't know, get a little bit of value. And then if you are able to cast enough spells, like when you hit your second spell each turn, so like if you use enough blue and white instants, like you can trigger this on other people's turns, you can exile a creature you control and then return it, so it basically flickers. So you could target Ojai to get said life and scrying for its ETB, or you can have a bit of flexibility and choose either your other creatures or even your opponent's creatures if they are mid-combat. This card allows a good amount of flexibility within arguably like Flicker's main colors, that being white and blue. Yeah,
and I think that there's already some pretty good options. I feel like, you know, we had Thassa Deep Dwelling. That was kind of like another Conjurer's type closet commander from Theros Beyond Death. I feel like that OG could kind of be like that, but then you also have access to white, and you have a bunch of ways to also just like flicker creatures to gain value. So yeah, not sure what like the best things to flicker. Like, I guess you have Sun Titan, who, you know, will bring stuff back, which is pretty good. But yeah, all right. This one is a mouthful. It's our last traditional commander, and It's oh gosh,
It's a fun
it's
one.
Draga, Gore Guts boss, 2 red green, legendary creature, human boar. So a boar and a human fucked, and then we got this guy. I'm really scared to play this again. I'm really scared to play against this in probably the future. Each creature you control with mana ability gets +2/+2. So Llanowar Elves, Elvish Mystic, Dryad Arbor, yep. I don't know. There's a ton of like just green mana dorks. You know, boom. +2/+2. 1 mana, 3/3. There you go. And taps for mana. Whenever a creature you control with mana ability attacks, untap it. Okay. Whenever you cast a spell, if at least 7 mana was spent to cast it, untap target creature. It gains +7/+7 and gains trample until end of turn. So I feel like this just has the potential to go off. And like you'll probably want to attack, and then second main phase. After you've attacked with all your mana dorks, you can untap them, get more value off that. Yeah, I feel like what do you know about this guy? This one was also in the play to win video that I watched that you sent us, because yeah, giving your mana dorks more attack power is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, that really seems to be the way most people are building it, because, you know, mana dorks, they really help you accelerate into the later turns, just almost immediately starting on turn 1. But then as the game goes later, like mid to late game, you're like, oh, alright, they're still doing well, like they're still producing me mana, but they often don't quite scale as well. And Raga Draga is making them a bit more relevant by untapping them, and so that they can make more mana, and then also giving them buffs. So like they're often usually mana dorks are 1/1s, so now they're 3/3s. So like, you know, you swing out with a number of them, and that's like a reasonable size to like maybe survive some combats, maybe chip in some damage. And so this just scales really well to the later end of the game, especially with that last ability of like casting a spell, and if at least 7 mana was spent to cast it, you untap that creature and it gets plus, and then gets even huger. So this really is just like, hey, you have mana dorks? Like, well, let's start making a lot of mana and let's start doing a lot of damage by attacking, which feels very red-green. So I really like this design. Yeah.
Now that we're done with creatures, we got three planeswalkers who can be your commander. So let's go with the first one, Blake.
Alright, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to read these all pretty quick because I'm not impressed by really any of them. So, this is 3 white-blue, legendary planeswalker, Elminster. It has 5 loyalty, so it's a 5 mana, 5 loyalty planeswalker. It says, whenever you scry the next instant or sorcery spell you cast this turn, costs X less to cast, where X is the number of cards looked at while scrying this way. And so, funny enough, its +2 ability is draw a card, then scry 2. And then it has -3, exile the top card of your library, create a number of 1/1 blue fairy dragon creature tokens with flying equal to that card's mana value. So say you got rid of something with like 6 mana value, now you have 6 1/1s. That's pretty decent. And then it has, at the bottom, this can be your commander. So, okay, you scry a bunch within Azorius, and then you can make, in theory, a board state. So you have card advantage and you're making a board state. I mean, it's alright. And it's cost reducing if you scry enough.
I mean, you already have like a bunch of like preordained serum visions, like cheap blue kind of cantrips that can already scry without you having to use Elfminster's first ability to like get that cost reduction. And even then, like, you could probably find ways of like reducing it even more if you have the ways of like just being able to scry more than 2. I guess I didn't realize, but like, you know, -3, exile top card of your library. I thought you would probably be able to still play the card, but the fact that, like, you know, if I want to get a bunch of blue fairy dragon creature tokens, I would probably play something high mana value, but, most things with high mana value that I can think of, like, I don't know, Omnipotence, Temporal Visitation, things that are just, like, big. I would rather cast those than just get, like, 1/1 tokens, especially if I can't take as much advantage of them, unless if, like, I guess I run Divine Visitation in the deck, but even then, that doesn't seem like a good card for this. So, I don't know. I'm a little at loss now, actually, on like how I would want to build this. So he's okay. I do know that he's the most popular, the Planeswalker commit. No, I take that back. It is Tasha, who is the most popular of the Baldur's Gate Planeswalkers that you can build.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay. Now we're going to move on to Minsk and Boo, Timeless Heroes, 2 red-green legendary creature. I read that wrong. Legendary Planeswalker, Minsk. When Minsk and Boo, Timeless Heroes enter the battlefield, at the beginning of your upkeep, you may create Boo, a legendary 1/1 red hamster creature token with Trample and Haste. +1, put 3 +1/+1 counters on up to 1 target creature with Trample on it, with Trample or Haste, so, you can target Boo. -2, sacrifice a creature. When you do, Minsk and Boo, Timeless Heroes deals X damage to any target where X is that creature's power. If the sacrificed creature was a hamster, draw X cards. Minsk and Boo, Timeless Heroes can be your commander. Comes in with 3 loyalty. So, what I was kind of thinking, and what I've seen a lot of discourse around this is like strong. You can use the -2 to sacrifice Boo. That then puts Minsk at 1, deals 1 damage to Minsk, and then you draw 1 card because Minsk is only a 1/1. So you just have like a ton of ways of like you can easily like just you draw out your deck if you have ways of them being able to cast them a bunch of times, and you do with like Teamer Sabertooth and Dockside Extortionist. Like, if you can create infinite mana that way, you're able to then just recast your commander a bunch, draw out your whole deck. I don't know, win the game at that point. Why don't you?
I mean, you can try, but
I think you could succeed. You also have infinite mana at that point.
Alright.
Like, sorry, I drew my whole deck and I have infinite mana. I don't know how to win. Like, my goodness, I would probably, like, jump across the table and tackle you. Like, what do you mean? I thought you built your deck around a way to win.
I know there's been a little bit of discussion around this card's design in terms of Minsk and Boo being a Planeswalker instead of just another, like, legendary creature, and it being only in green and red instead of also white. Because, like, basically WotC staff have said, like, wait, hey, we need, like, the face of this product. Minsk and Boo are, like, one of the more, like, major characters within this world. They need to be, like, the head of this set. They need to be in the Planeswalker form. So we did it. I know some people care more about the lore and are a little bit more upset. I don't care as much about the lore. I'm not that upset. It's not anything I'm gonna like die over. I just wanted to mention that quickly.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair to bring up, but it is their product. They have some reasoning for it, so like, what can you do?
Yeah. This next one I'm gonna read also quickly. This is Tasha, the Witch Queen. 3 and a blue and black. Legendary Planeswalker, Tasha, and it has 4 loyalty, so 5 mana, 4 loyalty. Bit underrated. Whenever you cast a spell you don't own, create a 3/3 black demon creature token. Alright. Bit weird, but it makes more sense when you read the loyalty abilities. +1, draw a card. For each opponent, exile up to 1 target instant or sorcery card from that player's graveyard and put a page counter on it. And then -3 says, you may cast a spell from among cards in exile with page counters on them without paying its mana cost. So you cast this on for 5 mana, starts with 4 loyalty, plus it, you draw a card, and then for each of your opponents, like, you're like putting a page counter on their thing, and then going from 5, maybe down to 3 next turn, doing the -3 I should say, and maybe casting their thing for free, and then because of the static ability, also making a 3/3 token, all within the Dimir color identity. It's all right. I don't know if you can convince me on this guy. I'm kind of so on this card. I know that this was played in, I believe, either an episode of Extra Returns or Game Nights, and it was entertaining to watch, but I wasn't all too impressed by it.
I mean, Black does have a ton of ways of being able to, like, you have like Praetor's Grass, you have Opposition Agent, which are two pretty good cards. So there's also ways of being able to, you know, Gaunty, another example, of playing opponent's stuff and then getting the demons as well. So you don't even have to, like, necessarily do the +1.
True.
But the +1's nice where you can put page counters on things, and even if Tasha dies, comes back, she can then do her -3, and she's like, okay, what has a page counter? It wasn't that, you know, it mattered that it had to be the time that Tasha first came out in Exile, that it's like, oh, I'm going to look for anything with now that has a page counter. So if you do get to have the +1 go off multiple times and like kind of like build up a reservoir of cards that you can then use, you can then play her later, do the -3, and then you have like, you know, 6-9 cards to like play from, and then you can get like demons from that.
That's all really true. That does seem to be design space that WotC's exploring, is getting Black these like cards that exile your opponent's things and letting you subsequently cast them from exile. That's actually a really good point.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, I mean, the only downside I think is like players don't necessarily want you to be playing with their things. So I will say that like this doesn't seem like the best commander to just pull out in a casual pod, because, you know, if I'm exiling your stuff and then also playing your stuff, I don't think you're going to be happy with me, because you want to cast your own stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. Alright, and now, to finish it off, we got the Commander deck commanders. So these aren't in the main set. They are only found in the Commander decks. We got 4 of them with this release. So first is Captain Nickthrod. 3 blue-black legendary creature, Horror Pirate. Arg. Horrors you control have menace. That's pretty good. Whenever a horror you control deals combat damage to a player, that player mills that many cards. Okay, that's pretty good. At the beginning of your end step, choose target artifact or creature card in an opponent's graveyard that was put there from their library this turn. Put it onto the battlefield under your control. Alright, that's also pretty good.
Yeah.
So, you know, it does say, it doesn't say, it screams, play horror tribal, deal damage with horrors. We have a ton of good horrors in the game, so, you know, they have menace, so you're probably going to at least be getting 1 through every so often, because, like, you know, you're going to have to double up on blockers, and then you're going to be able to get some, like, free value out of this. So I think this is pretty good, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad that it has all 3 lines of text, because I think if it just had 1 or just 2, I would not be as impressed. But because it has all 3, I'm like pretty happy with this card, especially as a tribal deck. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, guy. It almost feels like WotC's making more of these horror cards. Like, they made, what was it? I think, my memory could be slightly off, but I think it was like Umbrous Fear Manifest, where it was like, that was like the first like nightmare horror. And then it cared about itself being a nightmare horror or other nightmares or horrors and doing some set effect. And then we also got Runo Stromkirk, which transforms into like a horror kraken. We've also just gotten other like horror-esque things, like
I think the most recent Ashiok also cared about horrors a lot.
So it seems like a creature type that WotC is just doing more and more of. So this might be continuing the trend of that, and we might see more horror and nightmare-ish cards in the future.
Yes, I totally agree. Alright. Got 3 more.
We have Faldorn Dread Wolf Herald. 1 red-green legendary creature, human druid, 3/3. Whenever you cast a spell from exile or a land enters the battlefield under your control from exile, create a 2/2 green wolf creature token. And then it also has an activated ability of 1 tap, sacrifice, discard a card. Exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn. So, with the static ability, it's like you gotta have stuff in exile and then cast them, whether it's or play them. If you cast or play anything from exile, you're creating tokens basically. And then you're also like discarding cards to put things in exile. So a surface level interpretation is like, okay, you're discarding cards to exile them and play them this turn, and then you play them from exile to make tokens. It just seems like a whole lot of steps within this color identity to make like just 2/2 tokens. It seems like very roundabout way of just making tokens. And like the roundabout way, like on the journey to make these tokens, it's not like there's all that many rewards and ways you can squeeze value from the process, like from discarding or putting things in exile. It doesn't really seem like it. So I'm kind of questioning how popular this commander will be. I don't think it will be as popular as, say, the one we just talked about. But who knows?
I don't know if it'll be as popular, but I do think, again, as we've kind of talked about, but like red has plenty of ways of being able to exile cards and then play them. So the fact that you can exile and do this like short-term card draw type effect, and then also get like a green wolf creature token out of it feels pretty rewarding. Like, you know, Jessica's Will, which was reprinted in this deck, would be great because you can exile 3 cards, and you can also benefit from the fact that you're like putting a land onto the field. It's not so much that it's also just like non-land cards. Like, you know, I exile 3 cards. Oh, let me play this land. Let me play this instant sorcery. Okay, I just got 2 green wolf creature tokens. So I feel like what you want to do is probably like focus a lot of your... I don't know if I would ever really use the bottom half, to be honest. What I would do is just focus, on the top half. Create a bunch of green wolf creature tokens, and then like try to find some big finisher through like Crater Hoof Behemoth or something.
Yeah, that's a good way to end games, even to this day still, Crater Hoof. I think you've mentioned it a few times on this podcast.
I probably have, because I can't think of anything else. Alright, next we have Nolia Dinars? Nolia Dinars. We'll go with that. 1 white-black, legendary creature, human rogue. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may cast cleric, rogue, warrior, and wizard spells from the top of your library. So party. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you have a full party, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, and those creatures gain Death Touch until end of turn. Okay. I do like the fact that we've brought party back. I think we kind of talked about that a little last episode with the black and white background creature pairing. But yeah, this is cool because I feel like, you know, we had a ton of cards in Zendikar Rising that cared about party. This is going to care about party even more. Limiting it to only white and black, I feel like, you know, not the best, because you want to probably play as many cards that care about having a full party. I don't think it'll be too hard to get the cleric, rogue, warrior, and wizard, you know, to be able to create a full party. It's just like, you know, what cards can I play to benefit from that full party? And there's only been now Zendikar Rising and this deck that cares about that. So it's your options are kind of limited in that way.
Yeah, I mean, over the years they've printed some really good wizard cards, and more so than cleric or rogue or warrior, and each of those creature types has their occasional really good card. But yeah, wizards are where like WotC has printed a whole bunch of pretty strong wizards. So I would personally lean into that, but again, you're kind of restricted to this color identity of just white and just black. So that's the biggest hang up for me. Whereas the color identity, I feel like, is creating a bit more of a restriction rather than an avenue to of creativity.
Alright, one more.
Alright, very last one. Firk Rag, Cunning Instigator. It is 3 and red, legendary creature, dragon. It has flying and haste, and it's a 3/3. So that's a bit odd. It's 5 mana, 3/3. It has, whenever one or more dragons you control attack an opponent, go to target creature that player controls. Okay? And whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, if that creature had to attack this combat, you put a +1/+1 counter on this card, and you draw a card. Okay. So, it's 5 mana, 3/3 flying hasty dragon that is goading your opponent's things, and then said goaded creatures are making this dragon bigger, so that's why it starts off as a 3/3, because it can grow bigger. And then you're also drawing cards. Like, this is a dragon where, like, you might not be drawing as many cards as, like, other dragon cards, but hey, like, I don't think it's going to be too popular in terms of a dragon commander. It might see more play in the 99 of other dragon tribal decks. I'm not really sure. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it either reads like goad or like attack each combat if able, because there are other cards that aren't necessarily like goad that do that. Like, you have a ton of cards that say like this card has to attack each turn if able, so like that matters too. Or if it's a goaded one, you know, at least it's not going to be attacking you. Yeah, whenever one or more dragons you control deal combat damage, go target creature. So it's not even caring about necessarily how many dragons it attack, it's just whenever attack an opponent.
Right.
So like, maybe you can go up to 3 things if you're attacking each opponent, but yeah, I don't know. This one seems the least interesting to me of the 4 that we've gotten. Like, I would probably rank it horror, like almost kind of in the order we've gotten. I would rank it like number 1 horror, vault, and then like the green-red exile, party, and then this. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure where this card will eventually like end up being.
Honestly, like, the new trend that WotC is doing is every set they're also basically making precons for, and I'm okay if these like quote-unquote precons like aren't as good as say other ones later in the year. Because we already have so many in the main set that I'm like, all right, these.
Yeah,
I'm fine if I forget these or if they're not as notable.
For sure.
Yeah, there's just so much. There's so much to keep track of.
All right, so we're at the end of the episode. Who do you think is going to be the most popular, or who do you think is going to be the most powerful commander?
Do you want to go first?
Yeah. Well, I mean, to me, I think the most popular for sure is going to be Mirm, the dragon spirit, worm. Most powerful, I'm having a hard time evaluating. I don't think any of these have been, like, crazy. Like, Minsk and Boo, maybe. Zevlar, maybe. Ragadraga, maybe. I feel like you got some options, but I don't think anyone stands out as like I'm going to be the strongest. Like, I feel like so far still the best pairing or like best commander we've seen come out of this is like the mirror, what was it, Gale and
black background.
Scion?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one black background. Scion of the Darkness? Scion of the Halvester. Mm-hmm. So those two. So yeah, I feel like the Worm, probably most popular commander. No one here, I don't think, is going to be the exceptionally strong, is what I'll say.
Yeah, there's not one that's like, oh, this one's clearly the most powerful and busted. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to choose, like, maybe Zevlor, the Grixis Tiefling guy, but that's
pretty good.
But yeah, it's not like there's one that clearly stands out amongst the others.
Yeah. Alright, so thank you very much for listening. We're going to head out now. We are the Wizard Staff Podcast. You can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, and anywhere else you like to listen to your podcasts. Leave a like and a review. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at WizardStaff101. Send us an email at thewizardstaff101@gmail.com if you want to bitch and complain about how stupid we are. We thank you very much for listening, and we hope you have a great night. We'll see you again soon. Peace.
See you in part 3. Peace.